morning everyone. Andaru unnaramma? Then if you are listening, can you please type that good morning ma'am or something as a written? Okay, I'll start the class. Okay. Okay, good morning everyone. So I think already hyperemesis case has been finished. Hyperemesis topic has been finished to you, I think. So we'll discuss hyperemesis topic as a case today. See, suppose a pregnant lady comes to you when you are sitting in an OPD, complaining of severe vomitings. So what will you do first when you come? So how will you know whether it is the vomitings is a case of hyperemesis gravidarum or some other cause which might be causing vomitings when she is pregnant, or whether that cause is aggregating in pregnancy. So how? So when a patient comes to you complaining of vomitings, first you have to know, check whether the vomitings is of mild one or severe one. So some in severe case, if the vomiting is of severe case, we can know by looking how the patient comes to you. She comes as like a hypertension patient. She comes to you. Even on in our OPD also, she might vomit there. And when we check her vitals, all the vitals will be very less. That means below 80 to 40 like that. And the pulse will be tachycardia. And she might not even answer you also. That is a severe case. So that what will you do? You have to admit that case. So what history will be taking? So usually a hyperemesis case, any vomiting, simple vomiting of a pregnancy or hyperemesis or any condition which causes a pregnancy, what will you do? First you have to ask the history. So what history will be taking? I think you all know what the definition of vomiting. A vomiting is a symptom which may be related to pregnancy or may be a manifestation of some medical, surgical, gynecological complications which can occur at any time during pregnancy. So this is the definition. Okay. So what will you do? First ask the history. So while asking the history, you have to know what are the causes of vomiting, of vomitings in a pregnancy. So what are the causes? In early pregnancy, the vomitings can be related to pregnancy. It might be either simple vomitings, that is morning sickness, or emesis gravidarum, or hyperemesis gravidarum, which is a severe case, or associated with pregnancy. We will discuss the factors which are included in the associated pregnancy later words. So in late pregnancy, again related to pregnancy means continuation of that same vomiting during pregnancy, that is simple vomitings or hyperemesis, or another one is acute fulminating preeclampsia. Associated with pregnancy means either hiatus hernia. I think you all know what is meant by hiatus hernia. Next is medical, surgical, gynecological causes. So all these causes means you can see that all infection of the organs like urinary tract infection, kidneys infection, and coming to liver infection, that is hepatitis, kidneys infection is pyelonephritis, appendix infection, appendicitis, and gallbladder infection, cholecystitis, pancreas infection, pancreatitis. All infections cause vomitings. And next is intestinal infestation and intestinal obstruction also causes hyperemesis. That is vomitings, not hyperemesis, vomitings. And later is peptic ulcer and ketoacidosis of diabetes. And coming to gynec causes, a twisted ovarian tumor. Normal ovarian tumor doesn't cause vomitings. Only when it gets twisted, it causes vomitings, severe pain and vomitings. And again, red degeneration of fibroid. So these are the causes. So these causes should be there in your mind, and you should ask according to the symptoms according to these causes. Okay? And you have to rule out first whether it is a simple vomiting or it is related to pregnancy or it is associated with pregnancy, any cause associated with pregnancy. So how can you differentiate? First, other causes we'll take in another class. First, simple vomitings of pregnancy and hyperemesis gravidarum, how will you differentiate? What is simple vomiting of a pregnancy or it's a milder type? So usually the patient comes to the OPD by walking only. She'll be stable, all her vitals will be stable. When she will complain to that she's having vomitings, nausea and morning sickness. Immediately after getting up, she will have morning sickness and vomiting also. The vomiting might be or 1 or 2 vomitings episodes per a day. And all her day-to-day activities will not get be impaired. So that is a simple vomiting. What is hyperemesis? These vomitings will be more in amount and more in frequency. And also what happens? All her day-to-day activities she cannot do. And even we can see the symptoms of starvation and dehydration also. So what is simple vomiting? Nausea and occasional sickness on rising in the morning will be there. Slight vomiting is so common in early pregnancy. However, I have already told you before, it can occur in other times. These vomiters will be small, clear or bile stain. Does not produce any impairment of health or restrict your normal activities. Usually this feature disappears at around 12 to 14 weeks of pregnancy. In some rare cases, it can also continue to the second or third trimester. Why this simple vomiting occurs? Because of the main hormone which is more increased in a pregnancy, that is HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Because of high levels of serum HCGs, these vomitings can occur. What are the other hormones associated? It can be either estrogen or progesterone like that. And altered immunological states are considered responsible for initiation of manifestation. So what is the management we will do here? Assurance is important. And we should ask her to take small amounts of food in more frequently. We should tell her not to take food to her full extent. Even if she takes her food to the full extent, it causes vomitings also. Why? Because here I told you that what are the hormones necessary? HCG, estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone, what it causes? It causes relaxation of the sphincters. So what sphincter will be present between esophagus and the stomach? Cardiac sphincter. That sphincter, it gets relaxed, and because of that there will be regurgitation which causes vomitings. That's why you should tell her to take less food, more frequent, and also taking of dry toast or biscuits, and also avoidance of fatty and spicy foods. And supplementation of vitamin B1 should be given, and antiemetic should be given, and ask her to take plenty of oral fluids and fruit juices. The hyperemesis definition I told you, it's a severe type of vomitings of a pregnancy which has got deleterious effect on the health of mother and incapacitates her in day-to-day activities. So incidence, actually nowadays the incidence of hyperemesis is getting decreased because better application of family planning knowledge. So unplanned pregnancies are decreasing, and also early visit to the antenatal clinic and potent antihistaminic and antiemetic drugs. So what is the etiology? It is more common in first trimester, first pregnancy, younger age, and also familial history, and low body mass, and history of motion sickness or migraine which she is having before the vomitings get increased. And also it is more prevalent in hydatidiform mole and multiple pregnancy. This I will tell you later on why it is more prevalent in hydatidiform mole and multiple pregnancy. It is also more common in unplanned pregnancies. As nowadays unplanned pregnancies are decreasing, so the hyperemesis or incidence is also decreasing. So what are the theories? Many theories have been formulated. So postulated. First one is hormonal. Excess HCG. So because of this HCG, in pregnancy HCG is increased. At that time, when the HCG is increasing, and when it reaches a peak, at that time the vomitings are severe in a pregnant lady. So like that, they have postulated that this HCG increase might cause vomitings. And also in hydatidiform mole case and multiple pregnancy, the HCG is the titers are increased very much. In that case, it's also there is more vomiting. So like that, they thought HCG might be related in this case. And also high serum estrogen, high and progesterone excess. I know before I told you that progesterone excess leading to relaxation of cardiac sphincter and simultaneous retention of gastric fluids due to impaired gastric motility can cause this. So what are the other hormones involved? Is thyroxine, prolactin, leptin, adrenocortical hormones also cause. So next one is psychogenic. Usually nowadays it is getting more common, psychogenic. It probably aggravates the nausea once it begins. So how can you know whether the cause is psychogenic or some other? Suppose the patient comes to you, she's telling that she's having more vomitings. If we admit her, with the same treatment, while she's taking that treatment in home, it's not getting decreased. But with that same treatment, when you admit the patient, it gets decreased. In that case, we can know that it is a psychogenic case of hyperemesis. See, but neurogenic ailment sometimes plays a role as evidenced by its subsidence after shifting the patient from the home surroundings. Other one is dietic deficiency. It is probably due to low carbohydrate reserve as it happens after a night without food. Allergic or immunological basis can also occur, and decreased gastric motility is found to cause nausea. So until now you have seen the theories, etiology, everything. So now coming to pathology. So what happens in hyperemesis? All in every organ there will be hemorrhages. So here you can see there is in heart there is subendocardial hemorrhage. Small heart is a constant right. In brain, small hemorrhages are there in hypothalamic region, giving the manifestation of Wernicke's encephalopathy. So like this, we know Wernicke's encephalopathy is in there it will be vitamin B1 deficiency. So it is related. And in kidneys, there will be fatty changes. Where usually it is normal. When some occasional findings will be seen in first convoluted tubule. In liver, there will be centrilobular fatty infiltration without necrosis. So this is the organs involvement, and next metabolic involvement. As you all know, in hyperemesis, there will be no intake of food. So glycogen is not there. So inadequate food, there will be no glucose. So how the energy will be there? How the body requires for the body to require energy? What it does? The fats reserve will be broken down. So even though the fats get broken down, there will be incomplete oxidation. So because of that, ketone bodies will be formed in the blood. So because what are the ketone bodies? Acetone. Most common is acetone, which is present. It is ultimately excreted through the kidneys and in the blood. That's why in severe cases of hyperemesis, you will see acidotic breath, and also urine ketone bodies will be there as it is excreted. There is also increasing endogenous tissue protein metabolism resulting in excessive excretion of non-protein nitrogen in the urine. Next, biochemical. As I all told you that because of starvation there will be acidosis, and because of vomitings, all the acidic stomach hydrochloric acid gets excreted. So there will be alkalosis. Both will be present. And because of vomitings, there will be loss of water, salts. That the salts means potassium, sodium chlorides will be there. So as the chlorides are lost here, urinary chloride will be less, and even there may be absent also. Hepatic dysfunction results in ketosis with rise in blood urea and uric acid. Patient suffers from hypoglycemia, hypoproteinemia, hypovitaminosis. So what are the circulatory? All liquids are gone. So what happens? There will be hemoconcentration, leading to hemoglobin percentage, RBC count, and hematocrit values. And also there will be slight increase in white cell count and increase in eosinophils. And also concomitant reduction in extracellular fluid because of vomitings. So what is the clinical course? Early how the vomiting occurs throughout the day. Normal day-to-day activities are curtailed, but there are no evidence of dehydration and starvation. Later on, all the evidence of dehydration and starvation will be present. What are the symptoms? Vomитings will be more frequent and also along with retching. And urine quantity will be diminished even to the stage of oliguria. And epigastric pain and constipation can also occur. As fluid content in the body is decreased, constipation is also occurred. As intake is also decreased, constipation occurs. So complication may occur if not treated. Complications I'll tell you later on. What are the signs? Severe case of starvation and dehydration, what will be the signs? So tongue will be dry, will be sunken eyes. Acetone, because of incomplete oxidation of the fats, acetone will be there. So acetone smell in the breath. And in hypotension, what will be there in hypertension? Tachycardia will be there. Rising temperature may be noted, and jaundice, if liver is involved, jaundice is a late feature. Such late cases are rarely seen these days because of early admission, early coming to the antenatal clinic, early admission, and early treatment. So, what are the urine analysis? If you send a urine, what findings you will be seen? So, quantity is small, urine will be dark, and high specific gravity with acid reaction. Presence of acetone will be there, and occasional presence of protein and rarely white pigments, and diminished chloride will be there. So also you have to send the electrolytes, all will be decreased. And in some cases there might be thyroid dysfunction. That's why we should send thyroid profile also. And in severe cases, very severe cases, only ophthalmoscopic examination is done, because in that case only retinal hemorrhage and detachment of retina is present. That is the most unfavorable sign. And if potassium is lost, then we have to, more potassium is lost, then you have to send ECGs. So how will you diagnose? First, you have to diagnose whether the patient is pregnant or not. Even if she is pregnant, you have to rule out all other cases which cause vomitings. This is done by ultrasonography. Then what are the complications? Neurological complications, it is due to thiamine deficiency, that is Wernicke encephalopathy, pontine malinosis, peripheral neuritis, Korsakoff psychosis are present. Stress ulcers can be present, and due to retching, there will be Merlevis syndrome. You know, it is an esophageal tear, lower part of the esophagus. Jaundice, hepatic failure, convulsions and coma, hypoprothrombinemia due to vitamin K deficiency, and renal failure might be present. So usually the fetus is unaffected. Suppose more fetal risk means it can be of low birth weight. Only prevention is to impart effective management to correct simple vomitings of the pregnancy. So until now you have seen all the pathology, how you will diagnose. So I told you before the case, now you have admitted the patient. So what will you do when you admit a patient? First you have to ask detailed history regarding all these causes which I have told you before. After detailed history, you have to diagnose, you have to confirm whether the case is of only pregnancy or other causes are there. How? By ultrasonography, you can differentiate. By ultrasonography, you have differentiated that it is a case of only hyperemesis, no other causes there. So now what you will do? First, you have to admit the patient, send in investigations along with ultrasonography. What other investigations you have to send? You have to send urine analysis, because by urine ketones, if urine ketones are present, then we can say that it is a case of hyperemesis, severe case of hyperemesis. So urine analysis should be sent, and also complete blood picture should be sent. And after what we have to send, thyroid profile should be sent. And if it is a case of severe case, serum electrolyte should be sent. If potassium is less, ECG is also sent. So all these investigations are sent. And after sending these investigations, now what you have to do? You have to manage the patient. So all her liquids are gone. So what you have to do? You have to correct the vomiting, correct the fluids, electrolytes imbalance. And what you have to correct metabolic disturbances, that is acidosis or alkalosis, which what is present you have to see, and to prevent serious complications of severe vomiting, care of the pregnancy. So what is the treatment? First, you have to hospitalize, which we have done in our case. Whenever a patient is diagnosed as the case of hyperemesis, she is admitted. Surprisingly, with the same diet and drugs used at home, the patient improves rapidly. Here, the psychogenic factor arises. The relatives may be too sympathetic or too indifferent. So, coming to actual management, first fluids you have to start immediately. When a patient comes to you, you have to start fluids and you have to do an antiemetics. So, how you will give the fluids? So, the fluid should be given as a total 3 liters. 3 liters, half is 5% dextrose and half is ringer lactose. So, fluid is given through intravenous drip method. The amount of fluid to be infused in 24 hours is calculated. How the total amount of fluid approximates 3 liters, of which half is 5% dextrose and half is ringer lactose solution. So, extra amount of crystalloids equals to the amount of vomitus and urine in 24 hours is to be added. With this regimen, so all dehydration, ketoacidosis, water electrolyte imbalance are likely to be rectified. And serum electrolytes, which we have said, if there is any abnormality, those also should be infused now. Enteral nutrition through nasogastric tube may also be given if the patient is in severe condition. What are the drugs? All antiemetic drugs should be given. So usually promethazine, 25 milligrams, flopropyrazine, Stemtel 5 milligrams, or trifluoperazine 10 milligrams may be administered twice or thrice daily intramuscularly. We are giving in our hospital metoclopramide or ondansetron. Anything can be given antiemetic. Vitamin B6 and doxylamine are also safe and effective. Metoclopramide stimulates gastric and intestinal motility without stimulating the secretion. So it is found useful. In severe cases, even though you have given fluids, even though you have given antiemetics and all vitamin B6, everything, even though the vomitings are not subsided, we will see for at least for 3 to 4 days for our treatment to be effective. Even in that day also, the treatment is not effective, then only you have to add hydrocortisone, that is a steroid, hydrocortisone. So how will you do steroid hydrocortisone? 100 milligrams IV in a drip is given in case it's having hypertension or intractable vomiting. Oral methotrexate is also used in severe cases and the vomitings are subsided only. So nutritional supplementation with vitamin B1, B6, vitamin C and vitamin B12 are given. So what is the nursing care? Symptom, what we have to do? All nursing care, not of doctor and nurses, should be sympathetic, but firm handling of the patient is essential. So social and psychological support should be extended. So hyperemesis progress chart is helpful to assess the progress of patient while in hospital. So daily record of pulse, temperature, blood pressure at least twice daily. Intake output, urine for acidones, protein and bile, blood biochemistry and ECGs are important. So this all should be done daily and daily chart should be maintained. Likewise, we will know whether the hyperemesis patient is improving or not. So how will you know whether she is improving? The vomitings get decreased, feeling of hunger will be there, and a better look, normalization of all blood biochemistries, disappearance of acetone from the breath and urine is there, normal vitals, pulse and blood pressure, normal urine output is present. So now all clinical features are improved out there, then when these clinical features are present, then we can think of discharging the patient. While discharging, what we'll do? So before discharging, we should make sure that when she's eating, hyperemesis doesn't reappear. So how? Slowly the IV fluids will be decreased and slowly we'll ask her to take soft diet. First soft diet and then normal diet. After taking normal diet, if the hyperemesis doesn't reappear and the vitals are stable and all the tests are negative, then we can discharge the patient. So before the intravenous fluid is omitted, The foods are given orally. At first, dry carbohydrate foods like biscuits, bread, toast are given. Small but frequent treats are recommended. Gradually, full diet is restored. So, in intractable hyperemesis gravidarum only, which is rare in these cases, termination of pregnancy is done. So, I think the class is finished. So, just a brief one I'll tell what we have done to the patient. So, whenever a patient comes to you with the complaints of vomitings, severe vomitings, what will you do? You'll admit a patient and first check her vitals, whether she's stable or not. Check her vitals and send investigations. What are the investigations you will be sending? All urine analysis and ultrasonography to rule out whether she is pregnant and to rule out all the associated factors and serum electrolytes and blood picture, thyroid profile, and what else? If potassium levels are decreased, we'll send ECG also. And along with the investigations, detailed history should be taken. All personal history, and also we should take family history also. Why I have told you in the history, etiology that familial history also can cause hyperemesis, like all her mother or sisters, if they are having hyperemesis while they are pregnant. So that also history we should take, because there might be no cause except for familial cause also. So all history, familial history should be taken, personal history and any past history. Previous pregnancy also, if there is any hyperemesis or not. As first pregnancy is there, second pregnancy might recur also. So all history is taken and general examination is done. If the patient, we should check for symptoms and signs of dehydration and starvation. So usually nowadays the patient is coming early, so not all cases show the symptoms or signs of starvation and dehydration. So general examination, everything conscious, coherent, cooperative, we will see, and all our vitals should be checked. Usually at the time of admission, there will be hypotension and tachycardia will be present. Gradually with the treatment, they will be decreasing. So afterwards, other systems should be checked, like cardiovascular system, respiratory system, central nervous system, all systems should be checked. And laterwards, then we'll see for obstetric examination. Obstetric examination usually 12 to 14 weeks only. As you all know that uterus becomes an abdominal organ after 12 weeks. So at 12 weeks you can see just the uterus is palpable after bladder is empty. So after exam and also by pervaginal exam, bimanual examination, we can confirm whether the patient is pregnant or not. So all examination is done, all the investigations are sent, and simultaneously while taking this history, you have to start your treatment. First, you have to give antiemetics, which I have told you that ondansetron or metoclopramide, anything should be given, and fluid should be started immediately. Mostly 5% dextrose and RL, half of in 3 liters should be given. And input and output. So in the first, when the patient will be coming, you should put her nil per oral. She should not take anything as the vomits are severe. So only input, that means by fluids. So how much fluids are going in and how much urine is coming out. Suppose if the patient is very weak that she cannot go even to the bathroom, you can put a bedpan there. If that is also not possible, you can put a catheter, urinary catheter. Usually we'll ask the patient to go or not bedpan. Likewise, output is measured. So input output is measured. Suppose if input is less and output is more, you have to increase the input. Okay. And after fluids, antiemetics, then what vitamin B's and depending what any electrolytes are less, we have to add those to the bringalap to the 5% dextrose. Suppose if the patient, even though in treatment 3 to 4 days, even though the vomitings are not decreased, then we'll add the steroids. So you have admitted, you have given all this treatment daily or what you are checking for the vitals and everything. After 2 to 3 days, Suppose if these clinical features of improvement are present, then slowly decrease the IV fluids and ask her to take food, first soft food, idli, bread or biscuits like that. If she is tolerating that food, then next after 2 to 3 days, we'll ask her to take normal diet. If she is tolerating that food, then we can put her on oral drugs. That is what I have told you before. Like this oral ondansetrons, oral vitamin B1 supplement, B6, B1 supplementation, and ask her to go. Suppose if you are suspecting the psychogenic, psychological psychogenic factor, then you have to counsel the patient along with the husband and the relatives which are all present in the house. So that might, so they might show sympathy to her, and that might, so that factor, if the counseling is done good, if they take good care of the patient, then the hyperemesis will not recur, hopefully. So that's all. Any doubts? Anyone having any doubts? If no doubts, we'll end the class. No one? Are you listening? Who is asking this? Is COVID transplacental? Actually, yeah, actually you have asked a good question. Rather than telling is COVID transplacental, I think we should take a class regarding antenatal care during COVID. Okay, we'll take a separate class on this. How an antenatal care should be taken, and how we should, what precautions should be taken, what drugs should be given to an antenatal patient and the baby, what vaccine should be given to the baby. I'll take a separate class. But it's not transplacental. Okay? I think I have answered your question. Any other doubts? Okay, then shall I end the class? Am I too fast? No? Okay then. Bye.